I'm Barry Honig. I'm a professor of molecular biophysics and computational biology at Columbia University. I'm also a member of the American Academy of Sciences and Letters. I'm a board member. And we have an annual meeting each year in the Library of Congress. And as one of the activities of that meeting, we award a Barry Prize, not named after me, uh, to people who have demonstrated truly outstanding intellectual achievement. Our Academy is devoted to intellectual excellence, and Barry Prize winners embody what we what we believe in and what we hope will create standards in the future. Um, Today, I'll be interviewing Dr. Megan Sykes of Columbia University, who was an award winner this past year. Um, and we'll be holding a conversation about some issues that pertain to academia today, both in Dr. Sykes's own field and perhaps more generally in these complex times. Uh, Dr. Sykes is a professor of medicine, microbiology, immunology, and surgical science at Columbia University Medical Center, which reflects her broad scientific interest. She's also the director of the Center for I'm getting it wrong, Translational Immunology, and a number of centers involved in transplantation. Um, Dr. Sykes has carried out research in basic immunology and carried her discoveries to clinical application. She's advanced our ability to modulate the immune system in conditions ranging from blood cancer to type 1 diabetes. Our breakthrough approach to immune tolerance causes a transplanted organ to be accepted by the recipient's immune system as part of self, therefore avoiding the need for immunosuppression. That's just a brief summary of our accomplishments, but I think justifies and explains why we're so happy that she accepted this award. There are a number of topics we'd like to discuss, and the first involves the field more generally. Megan, what are some underappreciated ways that work done in your field contributes to human understanding and well-being?
Thanks, Barry. It's a pleasure to have this opportunity to speak with you. Um, well, I think that the pandemic, sad and unfortunate as it was, did bring immunology to the foreground in the mind of many people. And so the appreciation of the importance of the immune system in protecting us from infections became much more apparent at that time. But I think people don't realize, the public in general may not realize how important the immune system is in every other area of our well-being. The most recent field where people are starting to bring this to light is in aging. That the immune system and inflammation are extremely important in driving the aging of of non-immune organs. And so I think healthy longevity is an area that is going to benefit our knowledge of immunology grows. Um, as you direct the Center for Translational Immunology, because our tools for understanding the immune system in the human being have expanded so dramatically in the last 20 years or so. And we're realizing now that the same principles apply across different disciplines and disease areas. So transplantation is the main area of my interest, as well as autoimmune disease, but cancer as well, so it's all just a matter of up modulating or down modulating the immune response to get the outcome that you want. So I'll say a few words about organ transplantation because it does save lives. Anybody can have end-stage organ failure from a variety of causes. And transplantation is life-saving when that happens. And many people may not realize how what an altruistic act it is to, you can donate a kidney or a part of the liver as a living donor, but also, after death to donate multiple organs to people whose lives they're going to save. And I think that's something that needs to be broadly understood and appreciated so that more people will sign up to be organ donors. But, we've made a lot of advances in recent years in transplantation. We've improved the immunosuppressive drugs that we have. We've improved outcomes in general, but rejection of the graft and the complications of the immune therapy that people need, the immunosuppressive therapy that people need in order to avoid rejection, are causes of a lot of problems, infections, malignancies, etc., because you're suppressing that really important immune system. I think that tolerance, immune tolerance, a very important goal, and the need to, because immune tolerance allows you, it's basically a manipulation of the immune system so that you no longer need those long-term immunosuppressive drugs. So I think that has huge potential to improve outcomes in organ transplantation. Finally, organ transplantation has already been the victim of its own success in a sense, because there simply aren't enough organs to go around from human to human. And as a result, many people actually die while waiting for an organ transplant. And what we've been able to do over the years is develop another organ source that is finally coming to fruition in human beings. And that is xenotransplantation, using organs from pigs. And it's very exciting to see how that has advanced in the last couple of years, and to be actually getting some of these things into the clinic, because pigs are the right size and we can genetically modify them as needed for human transplantation and ultimately have as many organs as we need. So we've been working hard on tolerance as a goal in xenotransplantation. Pretty excited about the potential for the future.
And it's really the possibility of genetic mutations goes right back to basic science and understanding of proteins, et cetera. So it's an example of how the entire array of biomedical science can play a role in this.
Yep.
Moving on, we want good people doing all of this work. And what is your sense of, have there been changes in standards, and how do we maintain high standards in science, in medicine, et cetera?
Well, I think we have great people in the field right now, and great young people at Columbia. And, that's been really exciting to mentor them and see them develop their own careers. I think there are concerns about the future right now in these complex times. I think that, for one thing, political interference in academia is a pretty major threat to our intellectual standards. I think that, people's motives, political motives entering into the academic arena can really stifle intellectual freedom, inquiry, scientific method. And I feel very concerned really about the sort of challenging of knowledge, of intellectual learning that seems to be out there in the mainstream. There's sort of a populist approach to, what a fact is. It's not really widely understood that a fact is a fact. And perhaps some of that was a result of the pandemic, because there we were hit with something that, we didn't know about. and it was a learning process for the scientific and medical community. And that was very frightening to people to, in real time, how the limitations of our knowledge can actually affect their survival and well-being. So maybe that's part of the reason. Maybe social media and the way that disinformation is spread is part of the reason. But I see that as a pretty significant threat going forward to the high intellectual standards that we try to maintain in science and medicine.
And finally, this issue of standards and possible political involvement in science leads to one thinking about how much, to what extent does the public understand what goes on in universities, and to what extent do they not understand? And I think with a special focus on medical schools, which I think probably are even further from the public sort of consciousness than, say, a main campus, an undergraduate campus.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that subject?
Um, I think most people recognize universities in general and medical schools as a source of higher education that will allow people to advance in their careers. And I think, that's a very positive and important perception. I think that, over the years, the cost of a university education, particularly in medical education, has gotten really out of control. And that has really limited access of many people. And maybe that is part of where this idea that academia is this sort of ivory tower elite comes from, and maybe is contributing to some misunderstanding and resentment of the academic mission. I think, though, that most people really don't understand well the methods of scientific and intellectual inquiry, and perhaps we could do a better job of communicating that to people. But again, it's difficult on a background of misinformation and helping people to sort through all that to figure out what the best sources of information are is really important. I think that there's also a need for people to understand the importance of intellectual freedom and diversity of opinion, and letting knowledge build on past knowledge and past errors, and to understand that knowledge is not something that's fixed. It's something that grows and builds on itself. But that can only happen if people are open-minded about things. I did want to say one more thing about the challenges, and I think that there is a lot of pressure on faculty to have high impact publications in short periods of time, and thereby to perhaps overstate their conclusions or hype them as more generalizable and significant than they might be. And then people will jump on, there's sort of a group think that happens, people will jump on a bandwagon about a particular idea. And so people will look very narrowly in a particular direction. And of course, there's also misconduct, scientific misconduct, which gives the whole enterprise a really, really bad name. So those are all things that we need to deal with because they get publicized as well, and so that needs to be countered with a positive message about how we learn and how advances are made.
I couldn't agree with you more. There's an interesting I think, case at Columbia because Columbia is one of the last universities to require uh, a fairly heavy course load in the first 2 years in literature, humanities, the history of certainly Western and other cultures. But it would be, and I think there is a one semester course requirement in science, but
Mm,
apparently it's not a course where people are taught the scientific method to gain a sense of how we all reach conclusions and examples of uncertainty where even the consensus might be wrong. Uh,
mm,
we all know of examples of that sort. So uh,
mm,
I don't know if that's going to change, but I certainly believe it would be nice to have such a course required in every
mm.
university to deal with the world we're living in.
Yeah,
Anyway, thank
right.
you so much for participating in this conversation, and we appreciate uh, viewers who may join us in the future. So
Okay.
thanks, Megan. Good to talk to
Well,
you.
thank you. It's been a pleasure.